sort of the guy who's on SpyM, who's this sort of, he's certainly not a jobbing physician, but he's a physician and he's working in the hospital, so to be able to interpret. We also have meetings with the data, so there's a sort of subgroup of SpyM that meets with the NHS.
Okay.
We meet every 2 weeks just to go through their data and so on, and things like that. So there are other ways of being able to get,
actually, yeah. Thank you. I already have 1,000 questions, but I'm gonna follow up on this data thing. I think, the few times we spoke before that, I was talking about you on modeling work you are doing on Ebola, and of course, no, I don't know, but there was lots of discussions about data access and data quality. I would be quite curious to see how, I know you already had experience working in the UK, but in this sort of large scale pandemic, how do you reflect on the access and quality of data you're working with for your model?
I mean, I think everybody's has recognised that access is important, and I think they've made the data available as rapidly as possible to us. And I'm talking collectively within SpyM. There have been 1 or 2 problems. We still don't have access to the test and trace data, for instance.
Okay.
But then almost nobody does. If you look, well, you could look it up in the news. Getting access to the Information Commissioner has been problematic there. So we don't have access to the test and trace data at all yet, although they're trying to get it for us. They have been trying very hard. Sometimes I think the data quality has been quite poor. And there's certain data that we, would like to have had access to. I don't think, for me, it was more, so sometimes the data quality is poor, but you get used to that. You kind of have to take that into account in what you're doing. I think more of a problem for me was, I think just general situational awareness, epidemiological situational awareness was poor at different points in the epidemic, and probably, I think that has improved, and that's been something that I've really nagged about, because I think it has been poor. It was poor at the beginning of the epidemic. We really didn't know what was going on. And I don't mean just getting data, I just mean knowing what is going on more generally. Same goes for critical points in the epidemic in the decline phase, and critical points, things like we really didn't know about what was going on in care homes and hospitals until it was really bad. And I think that was terrible. So I think we had poor situational awareness a lot of the time. It's not great. It's improved a lot recently, but throughout the decline phase of the epidemic, I think it's been quite poor. So, and that's been something that I've been really nagging about, frankly, but
you had a platform to nag about. You could sort of, you had a platform.
Sorry?
You had a platform to nag about it. You could.
I try not to go public with it, but I was doing it behind the scenes. But and it has improved a lot, actually. So I think my nagging worked.
Well done. What changed, you think, so that the awareness improved? What had to change?
Yeah. So we get now, for instance, the last few weeks, we get a summary from PHE and the Joint Biosecurity Centre on all of the outbreaks that occur. And for the last few months, through NerveTag, we've been doing it through NerveTag and getting PHE to give us a summary of what's going on, and querying them and getting more and more data on things like outbreaks in educational settings, which is very important if we're going to open schools again, and outbreak and so on. So we sort of got more and more input from PHE and got them to investigate their own stuff a bit more carefully and push it up through the chain, because I think a lot of this stuff was known at the local level but wasn't known at the central level at PHE, and wasn't known at SAGE level or NerveTag and things like that. So we pushed and pushed and pushed, and then a lot of this information is now coming back, and so now I think we do have much better understanding of what's going on. But I think at many parts of this epidemic, we were pretty poorly served by all of that.
Okay. So you mentioned that, for instance, you got a request on contact tracing. So the request would come from Sage. And does it already come in the format of a research question, or do you get a request on a topic?
It varies.
Okay.
Varies. So these things, these things will just vary. Okay. And I can't remember exactly how that one came. Don't know.
Yeah. So sometimes you would have a research question, sometimes you would have a sort of area to investigate, and you can sort of decide how to frame the...
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time, we're generating it ourselves. We do the stuff, and when we just sort of present it at SPI-M ourselves, so it's not always just reacting to what someone else has asked for.
Yeah. And so this is actually coming back to my question about how you manage working with this larger and larger team of modelers at LSHTM. So I sort of have now the picture about how you, about your role within Sage and SPI-M, and but then so I guess you're the contact point through which most of the modeling work from the Center on Mathematical Modeling get shared. Yes
and no. I mean, other people have presented at the different meetings. So Adam's presented at Sage. He's often, and many, SPI-M has now got very large, and so people just get invited anyway. So Adam, I think, gets invited to SPI-M every week, and so does Seb. Definitely does. Seb is on one of he sort of chairs one of the forecasting subcommittees of it, and Roz has presented. Nick is often in attendance and stuff like that. So a lot of other people. It's not just me who attends. Thibaut attends SPI-M most weeks, I think. Yeah. So it's not just me these days. It used to be before the epidemic, but it's not. But these days it isn't. So it's much bigger. I don't know. I don't think they're formally members, but the attendees, as it were, is much, much bigger, and many of them are, attend every week or twice a week, as it was. So, it isn't just me feeding into SPI-M. It tends to be me only. I'm the only one at NerveTag, and I'm the only one most of the time at Sage. Well, and Graham, because Graham is chair of SPI-M.
Mm-hmm. So would you discuss as a group at LSHTM what you think should be, what sort of question you should ask, what evidence you should produce, and then is there a sort of...
Yeah, it's often done quite quickly. So I just basically ask the person who's working on it, it's often Nick, and just say, Nick, can you do this in the next few days? Okay. Or often overnight, sometimes overnight. It's just like, we need this by tomorrow, can you do it? Or it might be someone else, So there's such a huge range of work that's been going on in the modelling centre. I don't know if you've looked on the website, but there's just a it's huge amount of work that's happened. And many of this is sort of self-generated. People have thought, let's look at this. So it's not all directed by me by any shape of the imagination. It's mostly self-generated, and some of it is like, well, can we have this, please? It'd be good to have an answer on this. We need something on this, but a lot of it isn't. And I think that's a bit different from the way that Imperial work. Imperial is much more top-down. Yeah. You work on this and get that done and stuff like that. We don't. It's like stuff's emerged, and it's all been very helpful, or most of it's been very helpful. And occasionally it's like, well, can we have a bit more of that, please? Can you tidy that up and do that? Can we have a bit more of that? Is really all I've done.
Yeah, I got to learn about the different cultures amongst
I think it's quite different. And I mean, also just in terms of, as you can see, like I'm on, so SPI-M's been sitting twice a week, Sage's been sitting twice a week, NerveTag's been sitting twice a week for most of the epidemic. All of them are now sitting once a week, but for most of the epidemic, they were sitting twice a week, and there's all subgroups of those. So there's a forecasting subgroup of SPI-M that sits twice a week, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
So